Our big story this morning, political story, Senate Republicans and Democrats are striking a temporary deal to raise the debt ceiling. That deal should cover debt spending until December in hopes of preventing the American economy from crashing. If Congress fails to raise the debt ceiling, the nation will default on its loans within 2 weeks. This has never happened before. If it does, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says the potential consequences could be devastating.
Millions of jobs would be lost. Millions of seniors who depend on Social Security for their support would have to make awful choices, such as deciding whether to pay rent or buy groceries.
Senators are expected to vote on that short-term deal today. Traditionally, raising or suspending the debt ceiling has been a clear-cut bipartisan vote. The ceiling has been raised or suspended more than 80 times in the last 60 years, including a number of times in both the Obama and Trump administrations. In essence, the debt ceiling is the amount of money the Treasury is allowed to borrow to pay for items that Congress has already voted to pay for, but do not fit into the budget. So here with me this morning to talk about how the debt ceiling impacts us right here in Utah, we have our Utah Treasurer Marlo Oaks. Thanks so much for making time for us.
Thank you.
So can we start with, given your obvious expertise here, any thoughts or feelings about this temporary deal?
Well, I think it's very important that we don't get even close to breaching the debt ceiling limit because of the implications that it has on our credit rating as a country, which ultimately leads to potentially higher costs for borrowing money. That would impact all of us. And so back in 2011, 2013, when it got close, our borrowing costs actually went up on a short-term basis. And
which is a concept we can all the interest goes up if you default there. Okay, interesting. Can you explain how the federal debt limit impacts Utah specifically? How does it impact our state?
Yeah, so the biggest impact would be on the borrowing costs. So whether it's a mortgage or consumer debt, credit card debt, things of that nature, that's going to hit everybody in the country. And that's just a function of where interest rates are, where the government can borrow money at. And so if it becomes more expensive for the government, it then becomes more expensive for all of us, including in Utah. One of the benefits that we have in Utah is that we tend to be more fiscally responsible. So in Utah, we are at 39% of our Utah constitutional debt limit. That's how much we've borrowed.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we're in a very good place financially in Utah, but the federal government borrowing impacts all of us. But it would also potentially slow down Social Security payments, Medicare and Medicaid payments, to reimbursement to doctors and hospitals, military people, federal employees, their pay, things like that.
Federal dollars go to all of our schools.
Absolutely, that's right.
It's really everywhere. That was my next question is, because Utah, we tout our balanced budget. We have a balanced budget here. And so does that insulate us at all from the repercussions of this?
Not as much as we would like.
Okay.
Just because of the amount of money that is borrowed nationally that impacts all of us. It really hits the country across the board, regardless of how responsible a state has been.
Right. We mentioned before, this is traditionally a bipartisan process, generally relatively easy to raise or suspend the debt limit in Congress. Do you have thoughts or feelings on kind of the bipartisanship that we're seeing right now, the partisan fighting over the debt ceiling?
Well, I think it's a function of the spending that the Democrats would like to push through Congress. And Republicans don't want to be a part of that. And so they are saying, Democrats, if you want to do this, you need to own the increase in debt ceiling limit and do it yourselves. And so it's really an effort by the Republicans to say, look, this spending is not what we want. We don't want to be a part of it. And so if you're going to push this through, you have to own it, the debt ceiling increase.
The debt ceiling, a conversation that we don't have very often because it does kind of go under the radar. So something that I've certainly had to educate myself on in the past few weeks as this has been in the news. For viewers at home who would like to educate themselves and maybe reach out to their Congress members with their opinion, where do you recommend they go to do that?
Boy, there's a lot of really great information out there. I went out and listened to podcasts if you prefer to listen to podcasts or different news sources. There's not necessarily any one source out there,
Got it.
but there are some good
You found a lot of good information out
Yeah.
there. I found the federal and your local Treasury websites have had some good information.
That's
for
a
me
great
as well.
place to start. Yeah, absolutely.
We're speaking with Treasurer Marlo Oaks this morning. Thanks so much for making time with us. Very important, kind of heavy topic here for us this morning, but important to us. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.